How's it going, everyone? Austin Honecker here. I just want to come on here for a while and give him a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite from tonight, which is March 24th, 2021. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish. For the matches, match 1, it was Kenny Omega versus Matt Seidel. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Kenny Omega went over with the one-winged angel. Match 2, it was Hangman Page versus Cesar Bononi. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Hangman Page went over with the buckshot lariat. Match 3, it was The Pinnacle, which are Shawn Spears, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler versus Dante Martin and the Varsity Blondes, which are Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison. That was a great match, but the ending to it, The Pinnacle went over because Shawn Spears pinned Dante Martin with the C4. Well, after the match, all the Pinnacle, which are MJF, Wardlow, Shawn Spears, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, and Tully Blanchard, were standing in the ring. Well, Tony Schiavone entered the ring, but the Varsity Blondes and Dante Martin were still out of the ring. Well, the rest of the Pinnacle guarded Griff Garrison and Dante Martin from entering the ring because Wardlow grabbed Brian Pillman Jr. and attacked him with the Mr. Mayhem. And so Tony Schiavone interviewed the Pinnacle, and Tony Schiavone was pretty much asking them about their victory and everything, and Cash Wheeler got on the microphone and said that he doesn't really have a family, like a wife and kids or anything, but he considered the Pinnacle. He considered MJF, Wardlow, Shawn Spears, Dax Harwood, and Tully Blanchard all family, and he said he would have their backs no matter what, and he would die for them and everything. Then Dax Harwood, yeah, that was Cash Wheeler, by the way. Well, Dax Harwood got on the microphone and was talking about how Santana and Ortiz were, they've proved their worth and everything. And then talked about how the Inner Circle, how this was professional wrestling, and how the Inner Circle were just a comedy skit and everything, which that was cool. Then MJF got on the microphone and was pretty much talking shit towards Chris Jericho and called out all of the Inner Circle, which are Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, Santana, and Ortiz. But MJF then was like, being sarcastic and was pretty much saying about how he was like, well, that's right, the Inner Circle can't come out because of what happened a couple weeks ago. Well, Tony Schiavone reminded MJF about that. Well, Tony Schiavone was getting ready to MJF was talking a bunch of shit, talking about more shit about Chris Jericho and the Inner Circle, and everything. Well, Tony Schiavone was getting ready to say something about MJF, and MJF was like, "What's that you want to say, Tony?" And Tony Schiavone, when he saw Wardlow, he was like, "Never mind." And MJF told Tony Schiavone that he said, "That's what I thought," and then patted him on the face. And the Pinnacle ended up leaving, which that was cool. Match 4, it was Laredo Kid and the Lucha Brothers, which are Rey Fenix and Pena El Cerro Miedo versus Brandon Cutler and the Young Bucks, which are Matt and Nick Jackson. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Laredo Kid and the Lucha Brothers went over because Laredo Kid pinned Brandon Cutler with the Spanish Fly. Well, after the match, after the match, the Young Bucks got in the ring, and Kenny Omega came out and attacked Laredo Kid from behind and beat the shit out of him. Well, Don Callis followed behind Kenny Omega, but Kenny Omega came in the ring and attacked Laredo Kid from behind and beat the shit out of him. Well, Kenny Omega was talking to the Young Bucks about how he was how he had flashbacks about the time when when him and the Young Bucks faced Laredo Kid and the Lucha Brothers and everything. And Kenny Omega talked about how he didn't choose AEW, he chose the Young Bucks, and was pretty much saying about how he didn't agree with everything Don Callis has said, but thinks that the Young Bucks changed and everything. Well, he was pretty much talking about how he chose the Young Bucks, but the Young Bucks chose Brandon Cutler, and Kenny Omega was pretty much given an ultimatum towards the Young Bucks, wanting them to join him, but the Young Bucks ended up leaving and going backstage. Well, Kenny Omega turned around and the Lucha Brothers attacked Kenny Omega with a double super kick, and then the Lucha Brothers, Rey Fenix and Penta El Cerro Miedo done the package pile driver diving foot stomp combination to Kenny Omega. So the Young Bucks and, anyway, not the Young Bucks. Laredo Kid ended up taunting Kenny Omega. Then Laredo Kid and the Lucha Brothers left and went backstage. And the Good Brothers came out, and so did, Don Callis was getting ready to leave, but as soon as the Good Brothers, which are Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, came out to check on Kenny Omega, Don Callis followed behind. And the Good Brothers helped Kenny Omega up, and Kenny Omega, the Good Brothers, and Don Callis stood tall. That was cool. Match 5, it was Ty Conte versus Nyla Rose. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Ty Conte went over with the DDT. Well, after the match, after Ty Conte was celebrating, Vicky Guerrero held Ty Conte down by her legs and everything, and then Nyla Rose was beating the shit out of Ty Conte. Well, Nyla Rose was getting ready to go for the Beast Bomb, but Hikaru Shida came out and attacked Nyla Rose from behind with the kendo stick, beating the shit out of her. Well, the Bunny came out and took the kendo stick and beat the shit out of Hikaru Shida, and then Ty Conte tried to get involved, but the Bunny beat the shit out of Ty Conte with the kendo stick as well. Well, Matt Hardy, the Butcher, and the Blade were on the stage, and the Bunny, Nyla Rose, and the Bunny, Nyla Rose, and Vicky Guerrero, after they beat the shit out of Hikaru Shida and Ty Conte, they went back on the stage with Matt Hardy, the Butcher, and the Blade. Well, Matt Hardy got on the microphone and was pretty much saying how the AEW Women's Eliminator Tournament was a joke because the Bunny wasn't in it, and was saying how the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny have all been overlooked and everything, and said that it was going to end today. Which that was cool. And yeah, that was match 4, by the way. Match 5, by the way. And match 6, it was Darby Allin versus John Silver for the AEW TNT title. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Darby Allin went over and retained the AEW TNT title with the code red. Well, after the match, because where Sting was out in Darby Allin's corner during the match, pretty much keeping the rest of the Dark Order, which are Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, Alex Reynolds, 5, 10, and Colt Cabana from interfering in the match. Well, Sting came in the ring to celebrate with Darby Allin. Well, Sting helped John Silver up, and Darby Allin pat John Silver on the back and asked for a fist bump. Well, John Silver gave Darby Allin a fist bump. Well, Matt Hardy, Private Party, which are Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy, and the Butcher and the Blade, which are all the Matt Hardy Empire, all came in, and Matt Hardy pulled Darby Allin out of the ring, and the Dark Order started getting involved, and so Sting and the Dark Order were beating the shit out of Private Party, Sting and the Dark Order were beating the shit out of Private Party and the Butcher and the Blade, and Darby Allin was beating the shit out of Matt Hardy, but Ty Conte came out and she beat the shit out of the Bunny. Well, a big brawl ensued between Sting, Darby Allin, and the Dark Order against the Matt Hardy Empire. But, like I said, Ty Conte and the Bunny got involved too, which that was cool. But besides all that, Alex Marvez interviewed the Dark Order, which are Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, John Silver, Alex Reynolds, 5, 10, and Colt Cabana. Well, but Alex Marvez is pretty much interviewing John Silver. Well, Alex Marvez asked John Silver if he was ready for his shot at the AEW TNT title against Darby Allin. Well, John Silver was pretty much saying, Marvez, I'm more than ready. And, he was pretty much prepared for his match, and he was having Alex Reynolds do the coffin drop, and Evil Uno caught him, and then he had Stu Grayson do the coffin drop. Evil Uno caught him, and then he had 5 do the coffin drop, but Evil Uno let him go. And so the Dark Order were pretty much praising, pretty much rooting on getting John Silver motivated for his match. They ended up leaving. The rest of the Dark Order did, and Hangman Page came along and wished John Silver good luck in the match, in the AEW TNT title match against Darby Allin. Well, John Silver appreciated it and told Hangman Page he was the man. Well, Hangman Page ended up leaving, and John Silver just looked on, which that was cool. Lance Archer cut a promo on Sting, pretty much saying how he looked up on Sting. He looked up to Sting, and how he was his favorite wrestler growing up and everything. And he also talked about why he's interrupted Sting the past couple weeks, because he said it's not Sting's time anymore, it's his time, and if nobody respects that, then he's gonna kick their ass and everything. Which that was cool. Tony Schiavone interviewed Britt Baker, and Tony Schiavone was pretty much asking Britt Baker how she was feeling after the unsanctioned Lights Out match between her and Thunder Rosa. Well, Britt Baker was pretty much talking shit towards Thunder Rosa, saying that she came in her division and tried to take over and everything, and talked about how Britt Baker herself was the best, and how she was the ruler of the women's division, and talked about how the people were disgusting because they booed her, and she said she didn't need their praise or anything. And then pretty much Britt Baker was also talking shit towards Mick Foley, saying how it took him 22 years to be the hardcore legend when it took her just one night to be a hardcore legend. And everything. Well, Britt Baker was pretty much going on about how she was the best and everything as well, which that was cool. Let me see. Christian Cage, the Varsity Blondes, and Dante Martin were backstage, and Christian Cage was pretty much giving the Varsity Blondes and Dante Martin some advice because they were tag team competitors and everything. And then Dasha Gonzalez came along to interview Christian Cage and pretty much asking Christian Cage what he was talking about with the Varsity Blondes and Dante Martin, while Christian was talking about how he was an expert in the tag team division and everything, and talked about how he was giving them some pep talk, talking shop with them and everything. And then Frankie Kazarian came along and was welcoming Christian Cage to AEW and pretty much was talking shit about his shirt, outwork everyone. And Christian Cage, and pretty much Frankie Kazarian was asking Christian Cage if he was going to put up the work or not, and Christian Cage was pretty much saying he was going to put in the work, and Frankie Kazarian was like, well, when? And Christian Cage said that it was going to start next week, and Christian Cage pretty much set the challenge to Frankie Kazarian. Well, Frankie Kazarian accepted, and Frankie Kazarian was pretty much talking shit towards Christian Cage, telling him to check out his match this Monday on AEW Dark Elevation, because 7 years out of the ring is a long time. Well, Christian Cage and Frankie Kazarian, while in that conversation, they were talking about how they've faced each other a lot throughout the years when they were in Impact Wrestling and everything, and they ended up shaking hands and everything. Frankie Kazarian stayed. Well, Frankie Kazarian ended up leaving. Christian Cage stayed. Well, they shook hands and everything, which that was cool. Let me see. I'm trying to think. Let me see. Let me see. I'm trying to think. Team Taz, which are Taz, Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Hook, cut a promo. Well, Taz done most of the talking and was pretty much saying how there was no problems in Team Taz, and how Brian Cage apologized for his for praising Sting and selling Ricky Starks out by doing so. Well, Taz was asking Powerhouse Hobbs if there was any problems. He said no. He asked Hook if there was any problems. Hook said no. And then he asked Ricky Starks if there was any problems. Ricky Starks said absolutely not. And then he asked Brian Cage if there was any problems. Well, Brian Cage, he was a little hesitant, and he said, "Who better?" Which, that was cool. Tony Schiavone interviewed QT Marshall, and Tony Schiavone was pretty much asking why QT Marshall has been turning his back on the Nightmare Family lately and everything. Well, QT Marshall ended up talking about how he was there to do what he loves to do, and how, yes, he was Cody Rhodes' friend, but he wasn't just he wasn't just there to be Cody Rhodes' friend. He was there for himself and everything. Well, QT Marshall proposed that he wanted to be in a match, be in an exhibition match. Well, Cody Rhodes came out and he pretty much accepted QT Marshall's challenge. And Cody Rhodes accepted QT Marshall's challenge, and QT Marshall was appreciative towards it. And QT Marshall, Cody Rhodes announced that in that exhibition match between him and QT Marshall, Arn Anderson was going to be the special guest referee for the match. Well, Cody Rhodes ended up leaving, and so did QT Marshall, which that was cool. Jade Cargill cut a promo on Red Velvet saying how she got in her face and everything, and how she kicked her ass about a month ago and everything, and talked about how she was going to do it again and everything, which that was cool. Cody and Brandy Rhodes announced that they were going to have a new reality show on the TNT channel called Roads of the Top, which I'm not a big fan of reality shows, but if that's what they want, more power to them. But that was cool nonetheless. Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston cut a promo on Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and the Good Brothers, and also Don Callis. And Eddie Kingston talked about how this was not New Japan anymore, and everything. And Jon Moxley was talking about how he didn't like the Young Bucks, but he applauded them for saving him and Eddie Kingston last week. And Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston were pretty much talking about, because where Eddie Kingston is on the injured list with his foot, courtesy of Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers, Eddie Kingston was pretty much trying to stand up, but he couldn't. And Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston were pretty much talking about how they were going to kick Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, the Good Brothers, and Don Callis' asses, which that was cool. Let me see. AEW aired a video package of the feud between Miro and Kip Sabian versus Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy, and talking about their match next week, the Arcade Anarchy match. And Miro and Kip Sabian were talking about how they were going to decimate Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy, and Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy were talking about how they were going to decimate Miro and Kip Sabian and everything, which that was cool. And Scorpio Sky cut a promo about how he's been underutilized and how he was going to come back on top, and how he was going to do it by hurting people to get what he wants and everything, which that was cool. Well, Scorpio Sky also announced that he will be facing Mike Seidel. Well, Scorpio Sky cut the promo. Yeah, Scorpio Sky cut a promo about how he was how he's been underutilized, and how he's been how he's had to hurt people to get what he wants, and talked about how he was talked about him facing Mike Seidel on AEW Dark Elevation this Monday, and talked about how he was going to destroy him and everything, which that was cool. But besides all that, Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. And Don Callis done guest commentary along with Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur throughout the match of Kenny Omega versus Matt Seidel. Don Callis done great on guest commentary. The referees for the event were Rick Knox, Paul Turner, Bryce Remsburg, and Aubrey Edwards. Okay. Okay. Paul Turner refereed the match between Kenny Omega versus Matt Seidel. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Hangman Page versus Cesar Bononi. Paul Turner refereed the match between The Pinnacle versus Dante Martin and the Varsity Blondes. Rick Knox refereed the match between Laredo Kid and the Lucha Brothers versus Brandon Cutler and the Young Bucks. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Ty Conte versus Nyla Rose, and Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Darby Allin versus John Silver. All the referees done awesome as usual. Now, the match card for next week's AEW Dynamite, it's going to be Christian Cage versus Frankie Kazarian, Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall with Arn Anderson as the special referee, Miro and Kip Sabian versus Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy in an Arcade Anarchy match. Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers versus the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid, and Hikaru Shida and Ty Conti versus the Bunny and Nyla Rose. That's the match card that's been announced so far on for AEW Dynamite next week. And it sounds like it's going to be awesome. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a while and give my review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite from tonight, March 24th, 2021. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish, and with that being said, my name is Austin Honecker, and I will catch your ass down the road.